Singh, President and Head Hospitality, Bhartiya Group as the moderator. Joining him on stage are Mr. Amir Golbarg, Senior Vice President, Middle East, Africa and India, Minor Hotels, Mr. Basav Mukherjee, Chief Strategy Officer, Brij Hotels, Mr. Raghu Sapra, Head Hospitality, Embassy REIT, Ms. Sonica Malhotra, Joint Managing Director, MBT Group, and Ms. Souvagya Mohapatra, Managing Director, India, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Operations, Atmosphere Hotels and Resorts. Please join me in welcoming them.
Please, come.
Thank you.
I can.
The seating arrangements. Next to you. Thank you.
Amir.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Start. Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. We're here actually to speak about how luxury actually breaks the bank and how expensive it is to really build luxury hotels and resorts, and what is it that we can actually do to make it a little more friendly to get into this luxury business. We'll start by just a very brief introduction about ourselves. I am Jaideep. I head the hotel division for Bhartiya Urban here in Bangalore.
I'm Basav. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Brij.
Hi, I'm Raghu. I head hospitality for Embassy Office Parks REIT.
Hi, I'm Amir Golbarg. I'm the Senior Vice President of Minor Hotels.
Good afternoon. I'm Sonica Malhotra Kandhari. I am the Joint Managing Director of MBD Group, into education, into owning and managing hotels, and also joint venture partner for Schlagenberger in India.
Hi, I'm Souvagya Mohapatra. I'm Managing Director, Atmosphere Group of Hotels, and India, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and of course, Bhutan.
Thank you. So, we've post-COVID, we've of course entered a new era of almost every segment of our business. And apart from the fact that the cost of capital is very, very high, we have now ventured into experiences. People want newer experiences, newer form of touch points of luxury. And in that regard, very often I think that we are actually overbuilding. How much have we overbuilt? What are we deriving out of what we built? Are we actually getting our penny's worth or not? Because if you're doing luxury, it's expensive and you need to recover. Your thoughts, Basav, to start with.
We both worked in Oberoi Hotels, Jaideep and I. And one of the things Mr. Oberoi taught us from day one, he said, never cut cost. Please cut waste. Okay? And I abide by that philosophy forever, because if you look at speccing hotels today and leisure hotels and luxury hotels today, I think one has to have that filter to say what is an experience and what is wastage. It's a fine line, but I think we all agree with our years of experience that you can spot the wastage.
Yeah.
And then you have to take a call, because if it is 35% of your spec cost, then you should remove that, because it makes your asset that much more profitable over the long term.
So I know Atmosphere Hotels is now, I think you're just around the corner to open your new hotel, and you are designing new hotels. What kind of design interventions would you really look at to see what are the waste points, or what are the points that are really not needed or unproductive?
See, being a resort management company, we are also now entering to I can tell you, a lifestyle hotels in India. And being a resort management company, we'll definitely look towards the location, design, technology, as well as the ROI, all these factors we give very, very importance. And whenever you are going for what you call location, we always go for location, location, location.
Right.
And very, sincerely and very, what you call, strategically we used to find the locations, which is tourism potential must be there, and also the owner must get the proper ROI if they're spending the money in the location, the land, and there must be a very proper en route to the location. And then, when we will go for the next design, we used to go for the local flavor. We try to, even if also we have a architect from the abroad or from the somebody else, we try to take the local architect for the art, the local flavor. And the material and everything we used to consider when we used to go for the luxury class property to give a different class of luxury if you are adding something local. And the technology also is playing very important role. We try to enhance the technology. We try to, our R&D department always been after that, what kind of new technology you can add up to the luxury properties where the guest experience can be enhanced. So those are we are also considering. And also, sustainability is a very important issue, how you can reduce the cost and sustainability can be taken care of. The most important, again, we always go for, as I said, ROI and the revenue. How the revenue can be, whether we have find out the right location, right hotels, right place, where you can get the proper revenue management, proper ROI can giving it to the, yes, those are the important element we used to, and plus, we also get the space management. We try to cover up if guest is staying in the hotel, and we always give the brief to the owner as well as the architect that at least 75% of space to be used by guest. At least this should, my earnings should be from the 75 to 80% of the space where the people can really enjoy the place.
That's an
and as I
interesting
said, we always go for a little bit bigger size of room. When you are talking about the room size, but even if also the Calcutta property which is coming up, the room size is 70 square meter. So the minimum size is 70 square meter.
That's interesting. Thank you for that. In fact, the very fact that you're looking at localization, sustainability, and guest experience to enhance your ROIs. So I'm going to actually break the protocol. Sonica, I'll come to you the last because you're most, I know you're very well traveled. You analyze every aspect of hoteliering, design as well as operations. So I'm going to come to you the last. I'll break that protocol. I'm sorry for that. Amir, how about you? Your experience, you're a brand yourself. You own the brand. Over the years, have you actually looked at what is necessary, what is unnecessary, or what is the new experience or the new product that your clients desire?
I think it's an interesting, it's, going back into the whole concept of hospitality, I think by definition, it's probably one of the least innovative sectors that's always been. We have a very predefined way of operating, unfortunately. We have a very predefined way classification manuals are built by governments of how a hotel should be, what's luxury, what's 5-star, what's 4, what's 3. And now the consumers are demanding more change than the developers and in particular the operators. And I think, the post-COVID era has realized a whole new paradigm. And I think for us, it's not anymore, and frankly, from our perspective, we've been blessed because we've always operated in the experiential space. But it's now more about, removing all of those basic terms of what is the square meter size, do you have a bathtub, do you have the TV, do you have the library and the lobby and the business center? All of that is secondary. It's about looking, and we call it profit by design. We look at every element and we say, well, again, to his point earlier, maximizing the square footage, but looking at what are the consumers looking for. And a lot of it is become intangible more than tangible. And factoring that and looking at how can you then maximize the profitability out of that, that's key. And I think the first thing we need to look at is not necessarily how do you outweigh your square meterage of a room or a public area, but it's looking at how can you maximize the experiences and create a destination. Because if you create a destination, you can demand any price point you want, and you can make sure that you drive a much longer average length of stay, and your cost per acquisition of a guest becomes much less, because then you know you have repeat business. So for us, we started in this space. That was the DNA of our birth brand, Anantara. We started this 22 years ago, when the markets were still talking about basics of having marbles and 45 square meter rooms in that part. That point, we didn't go into the basics of looking at doing points or doing the basic returns that you do in a normal corporate sector, which was where the markets were driving at that point. We already were the ones who went into the locations off the beaten path. We created destinations. We looked at experiences over the tangibles. So from us, the brand standards and the way that it's outlined is much less about speccing, but more about how can you maximize the profitability through experiences, and that will then drive your return. So I think luxury is starting now to pick that up through the consumer more than the operators. And I think the challenge now, and I think that's where the developers now have to start pushing more pressure on the operators, is to start thinking in that manner. For us, one of our core DNAs was indigenous sustainable luxury. That's been at the forefront of our existence. Going indigenous, understanding where you are, the consumer that travels to you, they would rather have an indigenous experience where they are. And India is probably one of the best fit countries in the world to do that, because you have everything that can cover that. From the day you start designing a hotel, looking at how do you build the whole construction cost around locally sourced materials, all the way through to operating, supporting the local communities, all the way to the amenities and all the services. And now, back in the day, hospitality was defined as luxury. I'm importing the meat from Australia, I'm doing that from this location, and everything is imported. Carrara marble from Italy. You go to Rajasthan, you have the best stones. You come here, you have some of the best materials and fruit and veg available. Why not go local? And I think it's more about redefining how do you sell the whole concept of luxury, more than just looking at it into square meterage and build-up areas.
So I liked what you said, profit by design, and we possibly come back to that later also. The other aspect of profit really is that as developers, we put in money on a per square foot basis, but we get GOP on a per room basis, which very often doesn't really suffice. So we'll come back to that. Raghu, you are in a space of business hotels with intense competition, right? And I know you have competition. I'm also one of the hotels there, but you have competition across the road, and you're making new hotels. What would your, because you would look at it typically as a developer.
Return per square foot.
Exactly. So what, in your opinion, would enhance sustainability of luxury hotels?
So Jaideep, traditionally, right, Indian hotel chains have done very well in luxury. Luxuries usually worked very well in Lutyens, Delhi, or South Bombay, or in leisure destinations. But actually, luxury has struggled to actually give you results, yields, and ROIs. And the fundamental reason for that is the disparity in rate in this market. Today, if you look at luxury rates in India, the ADR could be between $150 to $300. And when you look at international market, it'll probably start at $300, $350, probably going up to $700, plus there's no end to it. If you look at the earnings of Marriott and Hilton, which for 2023, and you look at the luxury ADR at the top tier hotels which they have, which could be the St. Regis, Ritz, Waldorf Astoria, probably the average rate is $500. And if you come down to the Conrads and the JW Marriotts of the world, your average rate is $350. So while we are building hotels to international specification, your rate is not there, your cost is there is disparity, you will never make that return on investment. So I think so it's time to change that. And that needs a rethink at this point, that are we able to create those gaps in the positioning right now? Just to let you guys know, if you right now go to Expedia or Booking.com and look at rates at AeroCity, between the highest luxury and the select service, there is a 40% rate delta. Right. Now that's unheard of any market compared to international markets, and I think so that needs to start changing at this big given point. While we understand the barriers in the market, But for eventually luxury to work in India, the rates have to go exponentially. I think so. That's how we look at it.
And your thoughts on speccing? On the specifications of the brands that...
so specifications, there is opportunity available. First and foremost is the area program, right? If you just reduce your area program by 20%, and if you look at probably you're spending 14 to 18,000 rupees per square foot to do a luxury, you can do the math of it at a probably GFA of 120 or 1200 or something like this. You can do the math of it. The just saving is humongous and the ROI just improves from there on. But the answer is in rate.
Answer
is in rate.
Yeah. Sonica, your thought. You've heard the panelists, and you're both a hotel owner and an operator also now. And I have.
So, Jaideep, in my opinion, there is a space for each level and category of brand, be it luxury, mid-market, upper upscale. It really depends upon your analysis of doing it correct when you conceive the project or you buy the land. I think we're getting very awry about luxury, that, it's financially not viable. Like, I can give you an example. Let's say, for instance, in a place like Lutyens, Delhi, I would put an economy brand over there. Would that be a success? It'll be a big failure. So I think every category has a place, and we need to dig deep in terms of doing a proper analysis. More often than not, the kind of owners, I mean, I also wear an owner's hat as well as an operator's hat. They do projects with a gut feel that it's probably more glamorous to be in a luxury, build a luxury hotel. Let me do the best hotel, the best in town. But does it have an ecosystem to support it? Does it have, the paraphernalia of being able to give that kind of experience and being able to demand that kind of a price? So I think the building block has to be me doing a proper understanding, market research, doing a proper financial deck internally to understand the viability, doing a comp set benchmarking, and based on that, we understand it could be an economy brand which works well, or it could be a luxury brand which works very well. Then the next step is the design. I've also experienced that out of a lot of hotel projects that we have analyzed, most of the hotel owners are approaching the brands when probably they've already done their submissions. They're in a kind of a brownfield stage. The certain amount of structure is already done. And there are a lot of inefficiencies which have already placed into the project. So if at that stage we have decided that I have to go for luxury, the correct team has to come on board. It's not just about getting a fancy, international architect and a designer, but the facility planner. I mean, being from Oberoi's, I'm sure, they would do an absolute back-end analysis. And of course, we also do it at our end. The facility plan has to be absolutely appropriate. And if that's not properly done, then your costs just build up. Be it your payroll cost to service the same guest, be it the energy, HLP cost, and it just kind of multiplies. And then you're looking at a project which initially looked viable, but because my project planning was not correct, I went into a not so good path. So there are various variables. So right from the initial benchmarking and your entire financial analysis down to design. And then I feel each product has a fitment. Once you've done that, luxury can do well. You don't have to do it through your own aspirations and the fact that you feel it's glamorous to be in. If there is a provocative thought process put into place, there is a place for everything. It's not just for our industry. Forget about hotels. Even in, let's say, retail. If I put a luxury mall in a place where probably the per square feet rate of residential is only 3,000 rupees a square feet, will it do well? No, it won't. So there is a fitment for everything, you see. So, I mean, and that's the logic for any industry you're in. So there's nothing to be scared about luxury. It just you have to be more conspicuous and more analytical and more detailed in this particular part of, the segment of business.
So that's interesting what you mentioned about the facility planning. So essentially, you really have to work out on the efficiencies of whatever and wherever you have to invest, and not only to make it, but also to see when it starts operating because it's cubic feet. You have to air condition it, you have to ventilate it, you have to light it, you have to clean it. So I think we need to essentially trim the wastage. If I may just throw up a question, because I was at a session yesterday and this question was raised. We all get a brand manual, right, to design and construct. A lot of the brands give you a brand manual. Some aspects of it may not be applicable, essentially applicable to your location. And one of the architects said that, yes, he did a hotel in Indonesia and he was expected to put a fireplace there by the beachside. And he said, because the brand specification said that. What is the necessity of that? So is it time for now the architects also and the interior designers who design, who are empaneled by these brands, and to really look at it and say that this is essential, this is non-essential, right? Come up with that and then let it get localized. You mentioned about localizing the design. So something like that is yet to happen. Or I don't know if as a brand, Minor Hotels is actually looking at that.
I think from our side, I think it's not necessarily only looking at, omitting, which is kind of what you asked for. I think it's looking at repurposing the areas and looking at what can we add. And for us, we did a significant investment into looking at what are the other experiences you can add and to maximize your footprint. Wellness is a major investment we've done in. We've invested in our own hotels. We've looked at how we could, drive the wellness industry and the forefront of that. And that, again, you take empty spaces, you maximize that, you drive average length of stay, you drive experiences. F&B, we've had significant investments in F&B. Again, destination building. And I think for us, really, is looking at every square foot and every area you have, how can you maximize it and how can you drive the profitability? So I think from my perspective, it's not about looking at what you necessarily need to omit, but it's how do you drive more profitability out of it. And I think one is looking at one is looking at new developments, but you still have a lot of existing properties out there that need to be repurposed and need to be relooked at. And that for me is even more critical because the appetite of new investment comes from how is the industry evolving with the current investments. And I think for us, we've entered into a lot of conversions over the last few years. And part of the piece of entering conversions is because of that. Because a lot of areas, a lot of hotel operators haven't understood the fact of repurposing and looking at the existing areas they've built and spec'd 10, 15, 20 years ago don't work today. So you have to now look at how do I take that existing asset and make it profitable. And you then have to look at new revenue streams, look at the new consumers, all the way from the generational travel, the pleasure travel, looking at the new generations coming up. We're already now looking at how can we invest into the Gen Alpha mindset. Gen Alpha is the generation that's due to come maybe in 10 or 15 years from now. But you need to think about that. You need to think what triggers them and how do you both repurpose existing hotels. In our context, we looked at spa being at our core. Wellness is a major addition. We've added now longevity hubs into a number of our destinations, where we look at the whole journey of a consumer, both from the dietary, from the nutrition, looking at obviously the longevity element with nutrition, dietitians, doctors that do tests with you, and you build a whole journey for them. And that's become a major hit, not only in resort destinations, but in city locations. For us, I think the biggest trigger post-COVID has been how do you bring the resort context into cities? We did an interesting rebranding of a property in Dubai recently, and it's literally in the smack center of Dubai. It's a pure corporate hotel. But the first thing we said is let's break the DNA of a corporate, add in the leisure component, make it a resort destination in a city, eliminate the concrete jungle and make it more of a destination. And I think that's where the luxury in the resort context has a lot of great DNAs you can bring now into the cities. And I think with that, from our perspective, is looking at how you repurpose the areas, how do you understand the new generation traveler, bringing the corporates into the resorts and bringing the resorts into the corporate environments, and using and maximizing existing spaces. So I think there's a slight misunderstanding, I think, of understanding what do you omit. It's about repurposing and looking at what are the trends that drive for the future and what is here to stay and what is not. Technology, just to add in, and I think there's a lot of conversation about how technology is coming, we're going to eliminate touch points, it's going to be a touchless experience. Nonsense. The consumers, post-COVID, have realized exactly the opposite. They want to have the engagement, they want to have the touch points. For us, the biggest enabler is created in the digital transformation world is the back office. Minimize the time in the back, minimize the wastage to the point, because a lot of the waste is in the back, and maximize it in the front. And that comes from a corporate all the way to your leisure properties. And that's where I think that the biggest differentiator will come.
So I know the hotel that you're talking about in Dubai, and you're absolutely right. It was just a concrete building in all glass.
Yes.
And I like what you said, repurpose. And most of us here who have business hotels, to get that new experience to the clients that they want, what is the acceptance of that change with the clients? Because some of the clients may have stayed in the earlier hotel also. What would they have to say? Because this could be a cue for many others to think of, how do you repurpose? You don't have to build again all over again. How do you repurpose the entire thing?
I think you have two sides, right? You have the consumer and you have the owner, right? From an owner that you come in, you take over a hotel, you obviously come in with a PIP and an investment. The owner obviously gets a little bit weary. I've already gone through a long tenure with an operator. It's not worked out. That's why I'm reflagging it to a new operator. That's the journey, right? But the most important thing is, ultimately, it's a bottom line question. If the numbers don't stack up, you don't do business, right? We're not here in the business of charity. We're in the business of making money, and that's the sustainability piece of it. And for us, the repurposing piece is really looking at, to your point, many areas that are not utilized. Nowadays, how many use club lounges? How many use business centers? How many use libraries? All of these fancy definitions, which are frankly not really being utilized for the consumers. Rather look at how do you create more social spaces? How do you drive more areas that can drive people together? How do you drive more unique one-off experiences, like what we call dining by design, where people can have their unique offerings as well. So I think that's from a developer perspective. From a consumer perspective, they're the ones driving that. It's not us. And that's the biggest thing. We're just listening to what the new trends are coming and what the consumers are telling us, and we're then invested in those areas. People now are looking for more when they come into a hotel. They're looking for a destination, not a bed. It's a very different concept now. And that's why when they go on a corporate travel, they come in and then we can drive them to do extended stays, combining the corporate, the business, and the leisure component. So it's not us driving it, it's them.
Interesting. And I know Basav is possibly the highest amongst all of us. He's most experienced in experiential living, I would say. How would you, what would you recommend for repurpose of existing hotels? Because the structure is already up, everything is done according to, what it was working earlier, but now the new customer wants it different. I don't want a customer going back on a weekend and coming on a Monday. How do I get him to stay over? So how do I repurpose?
I think one of the ways we look at Brij hotels, which is obviously, it's a resort concept. It's a very different concept, but I can use those learnings and pass it on into a existing hotel in a city, right? And the first thing I tell people is that, you have to, as resort, and remember, we are operators, we are also developers. We are both in many ways, so we can't get it wrong. And one of the things I tell everyone is, can we create love marks for life? When there's a guest who walks into a hotel or a resort, and when they walk out, do they love us? And that is the most important currency. My currency is mysticism of the land, right? My currency is the stories that that land and that environment has. And one of the ways I do it, and we do it at Brij, is we reduce the radius. What do I mean by that? Like, for example, in Brij Lakshman Sagar, we have the concept of a 0-mile concept. Everything that you get in that resort is from that locality, right? Right from the food to the experiences. The whole idea of reducing the radius is great, because here's what it does. It removes all kinds of wastage. Exactly, why should we get stone from anywhere else in the world if we have the best stone in Rajasthan, right? It adds to the entire guest experience, because I am celebrating the entire location and the locality. Can I look at creating an absolutely stunning experience that is hyper-local? It reduces the distance between the people of that locality as well as the brand, because what you're then doing is making sure that you're hiring 75 to 80% of people from that zone, right, from that place. It reduces the radius simply by saying you don't have to have the best English-speaking people, right, in that location, because here are people who genuinely care for you and look after you. That's what you want. Can you create love marks for life, right? And that is the concept. And I would translate that to a city hotel by looking at that location to say, what is it that I really want to be known for? If I am in Jaipur, do I celebrate Jaipur? Because there is so much to celebrate in Jaipur, not just weddings. Right? Jaipur has art, music, culture, theater, the whole concept of storytelling. For example, in Brij Lakshman Sagar, we do a simple shepherding course. I mean, people can learn to be a shepherd with the Rabadi. Because that's something they've never done in their life. It's a wonderful experience for them. So I look at two options. How do I create love marks for life? And how do I reduce the radius of everything? And the moment I do that, everything gets right size. I mean, the concept gets the right price, the costs go down, and what happens eventually is that there's a customer, the guest, who is willing to pay a premium for this, as we have experienced.
So I think let me just add to his point, just one thing, because he mentioned Jaipur, and I agree with that one point, because I think it's one misconception of many developers. The low-hanging fruit is the wedding business. But the longevity is diversifying your eggs and looking at how can you put the destination on the map, not just the weddings. Yeah. And that's a conversation I have actively today, where a lot of developers, they look at, oh, today the wedding business is strong. Let's build a hotel purposeful for weddings. But tomorrow, that market may dissipate. It may move somewhere else. Have you thought about diversifying your eggs and creating a long-lasting experience where you can drive business from all across? And that's a big piece that a lot of developers forget. They look at the short-term gain versus the long-term.
Long-term. Then you repurpose again.
Yes. And to add to that, I'm actually saying that it actually reduces cost significantly.
Yes.
It reduces cost, right? You can achieve an ADR of more than $500 a night at a much reduced cost.
Correct.
Than you would have if you followed the normal model.
Yeah. So does it mean what we term in business hotels as recreation areas need to actually change and be more celebrity of that location? How would you look at it, Sonica? Because, like he said, shepherding, and that's something I'd never thought of, but I'd like to try that at some point in time. Obviously, in a business hotel, you can't do that, but some of the recreation areas which are there, in terms of the utilities, if the utility level is low, how would you really repurpose? Because he speaks of the next gen who's going to come in, and they will want something totally different.
I do agree in a lot of ways that now people are looking for experiential hotels rather than, cookie cutter, let's say, business hotels. Even in business hotels, they're looking at experiential hotels. And if we're able to build experiential hotels, and if we have three hotels in a row, the experiential hotel will command a better ADR and better occupancy because people would like to stay there for one. And that experiential can come in various ways. It could be going very organic to what, let's say, the culture of that particular place is offering, or it could be in terms of, let's say, where Amir said it's, more health-oriented, and I have wellness, I have running tracks, I have, wellness areas which are probably far more profound than even dining areas. So you need to understand what your sweet spot is. But notwithstanding all of that, and I like to just pitch on your point, that, okay, we localize a lot of our food and everything, a lot of our procurement. But, a luxury traveler at the end of the day, out of, let's say, 3 days of travel, he wants to have his lamb chops. Where would you get that from? And he wants an Australian lamb chop. So, there is a certain degree of localization I can do. He or she would find it very exciting, okay, today I'm having a dal bati churma and, a lal mas. Will he or she be able to have that spicy food the next day? It's a question mark. So at the end of the day, there are certain things that you as a luxury hotel have to still have on your menu. Because you cannot annoy that guest, I want a lamb chops, but, I want it from where it should be. So I think that's a healthy balance that we need to create. in terms of experience. The food also is a very, very eminent part of the entire experience.
Yes.
Let's say if I were in Ranthambore, I've done my jungle ride, I want a great dining experience at the end of the day. People, apart from wellness, they make a huge amount of money. I want an experiential dining. So I do it in a traditional way, I set it up, but then I'm used to a certain palate. I have international traveler coming in apart from domestic traveler who probably will be more amenable to local food, but international traveler not. So I think we have to be very balanced in our opinion. Okay, localization will give me a cost cut, but in the overall scheme of things, am I negating a certain section of the guests coming to me? So, you know, it requires thinking. So your menus have to be something that are able to, you know, cater to different geographies, different nationalities, and then I'm creating a holistic experience. You see, so I think for me, pardon me for that, you know, in hotels, if we start working on revenue per square feet and GOP per square feet or EBITDA per square feet, then what happens is that, you know, with this, all the experience that I'm creating around it starts going into a focus of controlling costs, you see, and making every area revenue generating. Where does wellness go? Wellness may not be a very integral part of your revenue generating scheme, but it's a part of the overall experience. So I think there are lots of variables that we all need to look at.
Correct.
Localization, wellness, experience, ROI. I mean, none of the variables can be either overemphasized or left out. And if we leave out any one of them, then I think the long-term game is doubtful. So I think we need to have a more balanced view, and this is, you know, I mean, sorry if I've probably gone against a bit
not
of,
at all.
You know,
Not
thoughts
at
here
all.
and there. And in the sense, I believe in all of you, but I can't ignore any of them.
But I think if I may add, I think because it's a very good point you mentioned, and I agree. But there's an element there where, you know, again, I'm wearing the owner and the operator hat, and you know, to put in the context, yes, you know, I want my lal mas, maybe tomorrow I want my lamb chop. I agree. But where we come to the word of waste, and that's, you know, I'm talking of experience traveling across India. The things that hurt me is, and I'm talking some of the big operators, right? When you come here, you have some of the best available amenities, and you go to your room and you have, you know, your shampoo bottles and all the amenities, you flip it around and it says comes from California, US. That's the type of stuff I find waste. That's the type of stuff where you know you can curate some incredible amenities locally, and you have them available from all the best. Why would you need to import it from California because the brand stand of that hotel company tells you have to do it? That's a waste. And that's the type of stuff I find, you know, absolutely unnecessary. And I think owners have to put their foot down against the operators and say, no, because you have a brand standard that you have to import from US, why are you not going domestic? And from a consumer, that's the type of stuff that's waste for me. And I think the consumer would appreciate it even more if there's a storytelling attached to it, where you've gone to a local farmer, you've got the products, and you've curated your own soap experience in other parts as well.
Those are the suffering of free trade agreements.
Sorry?
They're the suffering of free trade agreements that you can buy a stuff duty free, but nobody really talks about the.
So Jaideep, I want to add one point, is that I agree that a customer, a guest needs to have the luxury of choice. But at the same time, I need to know what I stand for. And of course, this is what I stand for. I stand for love marks for life, and I stand for reducing the radius. Of course, I will offer everything else, but this is what I stand for. And I think that is important as operators, as developers, and brand custodians. From there on, obviously, it's the customer's choice, what they wish to do.
Yeah.
And you know, Jaideep, it's extremely important for hotels to get into partnerships, right? While leisure hotels do that better than business hotels. And coming back to, you know, Sonica's point here, whether it is wellness or whether it's food and beverage, or it is any space in the hotel where you can get in the right partner to do stuff, because listen, hotels are very good with rooms and banqueting. Food and beverage, there was some discussion earlier, kind of allude to that as well, that's changing as well. So we need to get into the right partnerships and get the right thing for the customer now, because the customer is really knowledgeable and they know. Means if you see outside today, there is Hatti Coffee, which is a lovely partnership because they are the guys who do the best filter coffee in Bangalore. Hotels necessarily don't do the best filter coffee in Bangalore.
In fact, that was the next point I wanted to bring about on partnership of hotels and food and beverage. we do in luxury, again, it's building luxury or overbuilding luxury, fitting it out in a certain manner, and that doesn't do well. That's not the main hotel business. For me, it's to get revenue from the rooms. I get maximum profitability. How do I maximize on the spaces? Can the brand partner with somebody else? That's something that we actually have to now very seriously look at. So you build less, you get in an expert in that field who fits it out, and you get a regular rent, and your customers get the choice of food and beverage that you want. They are far more, these experts are far more real and in real time for new experiences.
Hungry.
Hungry, absolutely. So would brands, now Sonica, I'm going to ask you as somebody who has a brand, and also Souvagya, and you're brand owners also. Would you consider partnerships of food and beverage? Again, to keep, I'm talking with two aspects in mind. One is the input cost is lesser, right? There's lesser money going in because they do the fit out, you get your rents. And in terms of customer experience.
Well, I think previously the hotels were running their, previously hoteliers were running hotels as fortresses, I need to do everything, be it wellness, F&B, XYZ, I mean, it's probably not, I'm not comfortable if the brand standards will be met by third-party operators. I think the world has evolved, and even the Indian region has evolved a lot, and we have come up to realizations that, there are specialized operators which could add on to the overall experience. And to start with, I mean, F&B, there are a lot of hoteliers even in this room who have got international restaurant brands into the country because they know that it's been associated with, let's say, a Michelin star chef, which you probably don't have in the Indian region right now. And if an international traveler comes in, it adds to the overall scheme of things. And I sincerely believe that, we as hotel operators can't be good at everything. And if we think there is a third-party operator which is able to add to the overall scheme of things, say in wellness space, there are various brands who are doing exceptional job. I mean, right from Mandara, Six Senses, L'Occitane. I mean, there are lots of them. Why not? And they have their own brand recall, and hence when their followers are coming into your hotel, it adds to the experience. And I really feel that we need to get out of this fortress concept, that we need to do it all because we control the brand standards. There are specialized operators in F&B, spa, who do it far better than us, and they will add to the overall experience. And we should definitely do that. And there are hotel chains who have already started doing it. Some of them have done it through, let's say, restaurant brands, or they've done it through marquee chefs. So it could be through either of them. And those marquee chefs come in through, literally like profit-sharing models and like ownership models, so that, and they put their skin in the game to make it happen. And we should definitely do that. And, for our hotels, we would definitely consider the opportunity. And for instance, our own probably brands, like for instance, some F&B brands, they do exceptionally well. We will look at other hotels to place in our brand. Why not? It's a vice versa relationship. We need to understand what our key strength is and then monetize on the key strength and vice versa, give opportunity to the others. Yeah, but you have to be conscious of who you're choosing at the end of the day.
I love the word that we've always treated hotels as fortress. This is ours. We do everything and we do it the best. With our eyes closed, not really realizing. So I think in some way, some partnerships have started, but do you think it now needs to expand further and on a larger scale? Because some hotels do get chefs, marquee chefs, very Michelin star chefs to come and do pop-ups. Or some of them have even offered them space. But it needs to now move on a larger scale because, again, coming back to the cost of making luxury and the returns that really come from it is something that we have to very seriously think of. Otherwise, it'll always become luxury breaking the bank.
I mean, getting a star chef and also getting a very well-recognized brand also comes with expenses. And hence it comes to the fundamental question, does the location, does the hotel have the right fitment for it? And I come down to my brass tacks issue is our analysis, our understanding of the market, our benchmarking, and how we enhance the benchmarking through our own product has to be well thought of at the initial stage. It shouldn't be a retrofit. Of course, we learn through our experiences. There is an 80-20 rule that 80% we've got it correct and 20% we modulate and also change. Because even if you have a regular guest who comes to your hotel, from the sixth visit, he or she wants something different. What's in it for me? So, you modulate, but your basic 80% of the job has to be done when you're conceiving the project. All right. And if a star chef cannot, for instance, it's a location for a budget hotel. Obviously, I can't afford a star chef coming in over there. They're going to cost you a huge amount of money. So, just because I had the pleasure of making it more glamorous, get a star chef, of course, you're going to fall flat on your face. So, it has to make economics, branding, experience, all the elements have to be considered, you see, while taking a call.
If I may shift gears now, or shift the vehicle. Again, post-COVID, we've seen that the demand for homestays, the demand for smaller hotels, better managed hotels, some of the smaller hotels, great F&B experience there. I can take my pet along. They have actually relaxed a lot of the rules. So, is smaller giving me better returns? I'm sure you must have. Okay, he's the expert. He's the expert in that. So will smaller give better returns and better experiences both?
Absolutely. I think that if you were to take a step back today and really take a look at the future of luxury, really, and the word is overused, it's abused, but really what does it mean? It means that there is something that is crafted only for me. And that can only happen in a boutique space where you have 10, 15, maybe 20 wonderful residences. I believe in the spirit of the innkeeper. And that's actually who we are. We are custodians, we are hosts. When you come to the Brij, you are my guest as a personal guest, right? And then I will do everything that I need to do to make your stay the most memorable stay, so that you love, I create that love mark for life. And that is only going to happen if you have a clear idea of the limited inventory you want to operate in. The Brij brand's limited inventory will never cross more than 30 keys per resort, and that is at the top end. I think we look at the sweet spot between 15 to 17 keys, right? Where we make sure that every guest who walks in is treated like family, because that's who they are. When they walk away from us, when they go back as family. They are our custodians of our culture. I hope we leave some of that with them when they walk away, so that they come back with that all the time.
Lesser on the actual product and more on the experience.
Yeah, more on experience.
But I think it's a very fine line. It's very, and I think, we deal with a lot of developers and we develop ourselves. And I always say, we operate from 12 key hotels to 500 plus key hotels. So we've done both sides of the spectrum. Actually, it's tougher with a 12 key than it is a 500 key. Yeah. Because you don't have the economies of scale. You're not dealing with mass. You don't have any more room for leakage. Everything has to be spot on, both from a guest interaction and from the back end. You have no room for error. That's literally when you go down to 12 key only. So at the same time, if it's not the right investment, location, create the right curation and experience, it can very quickly fall you on the back, and you can lose a lot of money very quickly with a 12-key hotel as well. So I think it's really doing a very clear analysis. I personally, I have my best experiences in smaller, very unique settings, But I also know that it's a very careful consideration when I go down that route than I go to a 500-key hotel. And quite often, the cost of running, it can go supersede the income very quickly as well, because that comes at an expense. The experiences, the people, the journeys, with a very small inventory count. So, you know, it's a very fine thread to enter into that space. And, you know, while I love it, most of the times I discourage owners because I think they don't realize what it actually takes to run a 12-key. They think exponentially everything drops based on the 12-key versus a 500-key, which it doesn't actually. There's a lot of elements involved.
But I think the way he mentioned, he said, for them the definition of luxury is an experience that is crafted for me. So for them it's very, very personalized. If I may come to Atmosphere Hotels, you are very, very large with leisure spaces, right? Do you also look at small units of luxury products and experience? Or all of your hotels are large?
I'm not able to hear him properly.
Okay. I'm saying as in Atmosphere Hotels, do you also look at small luxury spaces which are very high on experiences and you're able to monetize those experiences, so better returns?
See, we are also making a small, what you call, small hotel or little hotel or whatever he said, resorts. Is it the 25 rooms to 30 rooms? We are also coming up. We are also, what you said, may not earn big amount of money, but we are definitely going to give one of the world-class facilities and services. And of course, small hotels make a lot of noises. So I'm in favor of that, and also I'm going for that only.
Oh, okay.
But you know, running smaller hotels, like 4-key, 5-key, 10-key, 17-key, is far more difficult than running big box structures.
Yes, I agree.
And you know,
Yes,
if
you're
you
right.
have to tread the path of running smaller hotels, I think your overall long-term strategy of having like a hub and spoke model, because eventually, if you need to standardize your experiences, you need good people at your hub, be it production, service, operations, and then making their salaries and the hub's expenses viable, you need huge number of sign-ups. So, you know, for the first 3, 4, if you do, it's still manageable economically, but then eventually, you know, you need to do huge number of individual such hotels to make the overall P&L look positive. So, I mean, you know, I mean, hats off to you. Running smaller hotels is far more difficult.
So
you know,
I will respond to
it's
it.
far more difficult.
I will respond to that. So at one level, I must tell you, we're a very profitable organization. But the second point is important, how to do it.
Yeah.
Basav, I think, sorry, if I may interrupt, the point really was on investment versus return.
Yes.
Right. So
I'll give you an
for
example.
It's a luxury investment, and
Yeah.
okay, please.
So the reason I'm saying this is because what is very important to know is how do you set it up? Like in my mind, I set up my resort network as a disaggregated resort. Right? I would look at Rajasthan and have 75 experiences in Rajasthan. And each of them is a disaggregated resort. I will still have 500 keys in one market, but I will spread it out.
Yeah, that's like a hub and spoke model that you
Exactly.
probably follow. Otherwise, in terms of longer term, if we, you know, the smallest units become extremely
the model.
difficult.
So
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
the
I
way to
appreciate
do
that's
it.
exactly what you're doing, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, and
That's what we did
it's
in-
far more
in
difficult than
Africa.
probably what we
Yeah.
are doing in terms of
Souvagya,
bigger
you wanted to say-
inventory
To-
hotels.
Correct.
I want to say something here to make it more financially benefited. So what we are doing now, we are going for an anchor hotel in one of the destination. Then, you know, we are also spreading 20 to 25 rooms hotels around within a 50 kilometers. You know, it has become more viable and is going to be definitely a long run. It is going to be give a lot different experience to the guest. Also, the money earning. Yeah.
So that's what Sonica said, the hub and spoke model.
Same thing also.
I think we've done good time, and what I've been able to gather is I think we need to carefully think of spaces, trim the waste, repurpose, and not live in a fortress to make our investment a little more efficient and the returns far better. If we have any questions from the audience, we'll be happy to answer. Anyone?
There.
Ah, okay, there. Okay. What is more important for luxury in ascending order as per priority for you? Design, pricing, personalization, amenities, and people. Who would like to take that first question?
What is it? Sorry.
Mix
In
of
ascending
all,
order
right?
as per priority for you, design, pricing, personalization, amenities, and people.
It's a great question.
Yeah, actually.
I think as it's quite a culmination of the discussion we have had. All of them are extremely important.
hand in hand.
But in my opinion, it starts with design. And design is just not the aesthetic design, but I'm talking about the facility planning and area program,
He mentioned
which is fundamental. And then from all of that, everything kind of emanates, be it your pricing, amenities, people. I mean, it's nothing if my hiring strategy is not correct.
I liked his word. It's profit by design.
Yeah, profit by design.
Profit
John,
by design.
we'll speak about that. Profit by design.
Actually, pricing is the end product of all the other 4 items.
But I
there.
think it also depends.
Exactly.
If you're talking greenfield or you're talking of repurposing an asset, right? That also differs it. But yeah, if you look at it the other way, I think
I would look at it simply from love marks for life. Can I create love marks for life? What do I need to do for that? And I work backwards from that.
Yeah.
And that includes people. Right after that, what is my team? Who are my guests? What are they looking for? And if I do everything right, my pricing and my profitability is a result.
So there's a question to me which says target ROI and payback period for a luxury hotel. In my mind, first of all, I need to compress the time to construct the hotel. I cannot, even for a luxury hotel, taking 3 years, 3.5 years is just too much of interest adding on to my debt, or too much of time and cost I'm carrying. If a luxury hotel is unable to pay back within 3.5 to 4 years, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. We need to move to a new profit by design. Otherwise, the carrying cost is very high. So that's what we are targeting. And I think in our organization, we're very clear about it, and we've repurposed our design efforts and execution efforts to ensure that it's up and about and running very fast. How do you think the spiritual and wildlife tourism trends will impact luxury landscape in India?
Oh.
And I think here, before I put it to the panelists, and I may just add here, this also means that developing new locations. We were talking about Ranthambore and how hotels are now moving so far away. To get to the wildlife safari at 5 in the morning, you have to start at 2 or 3. So do we now have to, which also means that as an industry, we'll have to work with the government to open up.
I think the biggest problem there is as well, you need to work with the ministries of tourism, and you need to build that up as well. We do a lot in that space in Africa. We're very large in the wildlife, the big five, the experiences, and again, that's the lodges and the journeys. As I've been journeying through India, and again, I'm a fresh pair of eyes. I'm not Indian by birth, but I love traveling across India. I have seen some of the most stunning sites that have incredible potential for driving that same type of ecotourism through into this country. And I'm not talking just domestic, which is a very large market, but talk from the Americas and all across the world who do travel across here. They do visit the Golden Triangle, but what do they do beyond that? And that's where we have to work hand in hand to focus on destinations and drive the international. The whole incredible India, let's go beyond that and now start looking at some of these destinations and create them. And that, for me, is a big passion, and I think this is an area we definitely want to look at, but it doesn't work if it's a one-off. And to the earlier point about the small boutique experiences, you need to create a full journey, like we do across Africa. We need to do the same journey here, work with the ministries of tourism, and then we invest into the whole element.
Actually, this is a very interesting topic, and we can take another hour over this, but we have a time limit. I also very strongly feel, and I'm partly answering this on behalf of... Spiritualism in India has so many segments, and we just know very few. Wellness in India is very, very deep. It's ancient.
Foundation of most of it.
I mean, for some reason, in most hotels and resorts, they still haven't been spoken about. And if people don't speak about it, then customers don't adopt it. Tibetan medicine, there's various forms of meditation. None of it has really come about. And I hope as hoteliers we add it to our portfolio of services.
And I don't know how many of you attended the owner session, and the Make My Trip team had said that vacation is their number one destination in India. And even before COVID, we actually, and they said there are data points to say that people actually travel to regional religious destinations than actually to cities. So that's the number one bit, which is interesting.
It's like in Varanasi, we have the Brij Palace on the Ghat. And I can tell you, it is one of the most amazing experiences for us. Not because it's a luxury hotel, and obviously it's a jewel in our crown, but it's actually because the energy of that resort is so different at times. You know, when you walk into the Brij Palace, is the energy of spiritualism that comes through, which is difficult to define.
Yeah.
But you know, in wildlife,
that's a question.
If you start opening up the space and the government becomes more liberal in giving approvals, the sanity of the space will go. You know, the better thing, let's say Ranthambore, what the government's done is there's this beautiful highway that's going to go about connecting Ranthambore, and the travel time is going to come down to less than 40% of what it currently is, from like 8 hours, let's say, from Delhi to about 3.5 hours from Delhi. But if I start opening up the area and have huge number of hotel projects, the sweet spot and the beauty of the place will go. You see, and they are very strict because it's a environmentally sensitive zone.
Sure.
So, you know, they are very strict of approvals and everything. And hence, because of the strictness, the ADR of a small destination like Ranthambore is sitting at around $1,000, dollars.
Yeah.
It's one of the few places in India where it's matching up to any of your other developed, places of the world, because the government is strict about not giving approvals.
That I fully agree with.
Yeah.
And that's where, the examples of the Rwandas of the world, the gorillas, very restrictive, concessions are not given, it's contained at a very high rate, $8,500 average rate, but it also needs to then be attracted to international tourism. Keep it restricted, keep it limited, but focus as well on driving international tourism to make that, because that also makes it long-term sustainable and viable. There is a limit of how much you can push domestically. Internationally, that drives
And the
more
government's
footfall.
done that. The road infrastructure that they've created to reach the destination is going to be one of the best. It's
Absolutely.
reached up to Jaipur now, and it's going to reach up to Ranthambore, which is going to be beautiful. It's the Mumbai Expressway.
With wildlife and sensitivity of the environment that's concerned, I do speak to a lot of brands, and these brands are so careful in putting up resorts in wildlife and eco-sensitive places that governments actually invite them to open in eco-sensitive zones. I think, again, as an industry, we also need to take this up to the government not to contain the tourism, but to control it. And control it by inviting the leaders in such fields, inviting designers, architects, as well as players who are there because of the environment. That's something that needs to be really pushed at. I think we're up with time. I know there are a lot more questions. Some of them I can answer, but the panelists we're all here in the speaker's room, so we can meet up there. There are a lot more questions, but sadly we didn't have time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chalo ji.